member for Vieux North.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I feel very uncomfortable, Mr. Speaker, at this time. Based on what we've heard, obviously we don't have the details, but certainly, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what the ruling is, but if we are going to continue, I certainly wish to offer my prayers to the families and of those who, based on what we have heard, seem to be, looks like we have some injuries, and to pray that the medical staff get all the strength to do the best that they can. Mr. Speaker, if we are continuing, I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, that the member for Castries South East spoke about holistic development for St. Lucia. And in his discussions on this motion, he indicated, Mr. Speaker, that this strategy of the government, the strategy which caused the government to access a loan for the health system strengthening project, is part of the government's holistic development for St. Lucia. I disagree, Mr. Speaker, because I describe the government's approach to development in St. Lucia based on the evidence. I describe the approach as one which is partitioning St. Lucia and its institutions for sale and for the use of private interests, which will see the alienation, Mr. Speaker, of St. Lucians from their own development. Yes, it's a holistic future, but not one which will belong in large measure to St. Lucians. So when they speak about holistic development, Mr. Speaker, when they roll out the projects and they roll out parts of some of the development that they describe, the characteristics of all of those moves indicate that St. Lucians will eventually have no or little say in the development of our own country. I listened to the member for Castries South East and indicated that on a particular show, he did say that reconstruction will begin.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 35-1. I mean, how much further are we going to deviate from this debate? This is a debate about a loan for $20 million in order to be health care. The member hasn't even mentioned health care once, Mr. Speaker. Could we please try to stay on subject?
What? I've only just started. I think you're very rude. No, I think the Prime Minister is very...
Honourable member.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm asking you to continue taking into account that what the debate is. I will guide you accordingly from now.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just mentioned the actual health system strengthening project in my presentation. I just mentioned it. I don't understand this Prime Minister, as usual. But, Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries South East, he indicated that he mentioned on a show that the hospital reconstruction will commence sometime in January. But I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, that earlier this year, he also indicated that the hospital reconstruction project will begin sometime in May, and that it will happen on the same site. So it's a continuation of confusion, a continuation of trying to disrupt the understanding of St. Lucians where the healthcare projects are concerned in this country. Mr. Speaker, Samuel Kadea say, Mam Kaswis office take a diki, you can develop a pays à dans grande manière pour tout le monde. En anglais, you can di holistic. Like Mr. Speaker, Samuel Kadea say, manière moi ka yo ka développer pays a, manière moi yo ka développer pays a, c'est l'année en l'air Saint-Lucien même pas kay ni droit en pays au même. Parce que presque tout ça yo ka fait. Presque tout ça yo ka fait, en ces projets yo ka fait. C'est pour tirer en chay droit Saint-Lucien en ces projets ça là. Avec Mr. Speaker, même si le Premier ministre a essayé de bout moi avant moi même commencer, moi ni en éditant et moi j'ai essayé servir temps pour discuter bill ça là. Mr. Speaker, the Health System Strengthening Project, which is part of this bill, and I see the member for Kashi's office is back. I'm hoping that he has some very good news. The Health System Strengthening Project, which is part of this bill, presents a very interesting title. Because any health system strengthening, Mr. Speaker, must be seen as cross-sectoral, cross-political, multi-generational, and while we are trying to improve access to health care, and I have heard other members allude to it, it really should not descend into a partisan political boxing match of who did this and who did that, who didn't do this and who didn't do that. All of the time, Mr. Speaker, all of the time, Mr. Speaker, people are suffering. And we can go back in history. The people who are lying down on the beds and who cannot get access to the services, I don't think that those people care too much about whether it is Labour Party or United Workers' Party who did this or did that. We can go back in history. And we can go back all the way in 2004 when a report was presented by the late Richie Haynes, Dr. Richie Haynes of Barbados, on the health system in St. Lucia and what needs to be done. That report was commissioned and prepared and delivered in 2004. And the Labour government then, Mr. Speaker, took steps. The colleagues before have spoken about the universal health care program that was started. But by 2006, the government was out of office. So if we are going to debate about history, who did this and who did that, no single government can solve the healthcare problems of St. Lucia. No single government. And all of the documents are there, all of the research is there to show that different governments contributed to strengthening the health systems in St. Lucia. I sat here earlier, listening to members taking jobs. You said this date, you didn't say that date, you said this date. And this is really unnecessary, Mr. Speaker. What is required, in my view, is for the current government to stop showing bad faith, as I see it, in the continuation of the processes that will deliver quality health care to St. Lucians. Can they sit and say that they started the Owen King EU Hospital project? No. But should we sit in Parliament today and debate that you started the Owen King EU Hospital and I will finish it and this one will finish it? When are we going to stop? What they need to do, Mr. Speaker, is to stop the bad faith. And as I said a while ago, all of the reports are there. And they speak about reports, and one member said that the Minister for Health can come with a box of reports. Of course she can come in for a box of reports. But the report that was presented, the Dr. Richie Haynes report, I have it there. That report was delivered in 2004. Implementation started. We lost the elections in 2006. The government that came after, did they follow? What happened between 2006 and 2011? By 2011, another process started. So it cannot be that in a 5-year period, politicians are showing bad faith and not continuing on the process of strengthening the healthcare systems in St. Lucia. How is the bad faith showed? Instead of bringing parties together in this country, the government has created a very confrontational atmosphere. My colleague said it a while ago. They spend time fighting with the doctors. They spend time debating with professionals who give advice about St. Jude and pontificating about what did they do this and this one didn't do that and this one didn't do this. PS gouvernement, Mr. Speaker, pas à dire à dans 5 années qu'il solve tout problème santé en cette ici. Parce que si ça te vrai, gouvernement ça n'a pas de parler about Owen King EU Hospital. Parce que c'est le Labour Party qui commence Owen King EU Hospital. Mais est-ce que nous avons été ici avec debate, ça a commencé Owen King EU Hospital, ça a fini à date ça a pas fini à date ça. Ça me dit c'est le gouvernement ni pour tirer gourmet, il a gourmet avec tout le monde en les affaires santé, avec en les affaires fini l'hôpital, et essayer de jouer une manière pour tout le monde d'accord qui manière c'est bien ça qui est fait. Mr. Speaker, a colleague said a while ago, the leader of the opposition said, and he's correct, that when the member for Vieux South was Prime Minister, he invited the opposition and indicated to the opposition then that healthcare is not something political parties should be sparring over.
Health financing.
Health financing, this should not be something political parties should be sparring over. And no matter how the government tries to spar on this matter, it is the people who are sick who will continue to suffer. And while they are trying to spar and play upmanship and put on boxing gloves, Mr. Speaker, there are children who are at the St. Jude's Hospital, reportedly, when they were removing the roof, laden with fiberglass particles, who will never get answers from the current crop of politicians who approved it. Because by the time, according to doctors, those symptoms will appear, most of those politicians will no longer be politicians. These are the kinds of realities that we face here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Honourable Member for Beaufort North, Honourable Member for Babylon.
Mr. Speaker, I want to evoke Standing Order 48.1. Sorry about interrupting my colleague member from Beaufort North, but 48.1 speaks to how we can close the debate, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say that the accident is serious enough. One of our colleague members is suffering a loss of a family. That's Honorable Sarah. So I think I would like to at least ask for a suspension. So at least we yeah.
Can I do it, sir? Since I was on the floor. No.
Mr. Speaker, I was just asking for a suspension.
Honourable Member, since you mentioned 48.1,
yeah.
turning to 48.1, 48.1 calls for us to conclude this current motion that is before us, that to close the debate on that, and then thereafter if we want to adjourn or suspend the sitting of the House, then so be it. So are you asking for us to close this motion, or are you asking now for us to just suspend the House and move to another time? Because I'm not sure after the honorable member, I'm not sure who else is prepared to speak to this.
The Speaker suspending the House will be the prerogative of the Prime Minister, the access for suspension.
Honorable Prime Minister, the question is now, do we close this motion and move to adjourn the House, or do we suspend the House and come back some other time to continue this particular motion and move on? Yes, on the 48-1, then we could put the question.
Mr. Speaker, in light of the loss, the reported loss of the colleague's family, and in light of what seemed to be even more serious than originally heard, I will now end my presentation. And again, just to wish the families God's blessings and God's strength. Because of this, Mr. Speaker, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.